Every night her shift began the same way. Claire came through the side door of Westbridge Regional, the one that didn't beep when it closed. The hall there always smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old coffee. Her footsteps were quiet, broken-in nursing shoes barely scuffing the tiles. A pale blue jacket hung loosely over her scrubs, and her canvas bag, faded and softened with time, swung gently at her side. A small puppy keychain dangled from the zipper, the plastic nose worn smooth from years of being thumbed unconsciously. On her way in, she always passed the vending machine near the dim hallway junction. The card reader had been broken for months, and it often jammed. Still, Claire paused and slipped 2 quarters into the slot, then walked away without pressing any buttons. For someone who needs something sweet, she'd once told a janitor, who just smiled and kept mopping. Most people at the hospital didn't remember her name. Some thought it started with an L. Others called her the Quiet One. But the long-stay patients, room 214, 217, knew. They remembered how their shoulders settled when she adjusted their pillows, just so. They remembered how she folded blankets in threes, how she didn't rush. That night, near midnight, Claire spotted a woman in the waiting room, alone. Rainwater puddled beneath her. She was soaked to the skin, hunched over, clutching a canvas tote like it was a life raft. Her shoulders shook. Claire didn't ask questions. She fetched a blanket from the supply cart, draped it gently over the woman's back, then sat beside her in silence. She placed a hand softly on her shoulder. There was a pin on the woman's collar. Blue stone, oddly familiar. Claire noticed, then bowed her head. She had stayed past the end of her shift again. No one noticed when she slipped out of the waiting room and returned to the ward. The morning light bled through the high windows in muted strips, casting pale lines across the nurses' station. The ward was quieter than usual, patients still drowsing, monitors beeping softly, the distant clatter of breakfast trays just beginning. Claire had just finished logging her last patient note when the shift leader, Mary Ann, stepped briskly into the room. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor. In her hand was a clipboard. "There's a discrepancy in room 207, she said, her voice tight. "The hydromorphone vial is missing. It's not signed out in the chart." The other nurses stilled, heads turned. Claire's hands paused on the keyboard. She didn't look up right away. "You were on duty, right?" asked Shelby, the nurse who had clocked in just before Claire the previous evening. She didn't look at Claire when she added flatly, "You probably just forgot to document it." Claire opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes flicked to the log sheet. There was a small gap, just one line, empty between the midnight and 2 a.m. entry. "I'll check it," Claire said quietly, but Mary Ann had already turned to the others. "This isn't the first time something's been mishandled. I want this corrected immediately. Claire, if there's another issue like this, we'll have to consider reassigning you to admin." No one spoke. Claire just nodded once. "I'll double-check next time," she murmured. Her voice didn't tremble, but her hands had stilled completely. Later, when most of the staff headed to the break room for coffee and bagels, Claire went down to the basement supply room. The storage lights buzzed overhead, rows of shelves stacked with bandages, IV kits, pill trays. She didn't speak, just rolled up her sleeves and began sorting. Vials, gloves, cotton pads, restocking bins one by one. She wiped down each shelf with practiced care, even the ones that didn't need it. Around 9 o'clock, Olivia peeked in. "You're not eating?" she asked gently, holding out a styrofoam cup. Claire glanced up, then shook her head. "Thanks, but I'm fine." Olivia hesitated. "Claire, why didn't you say anything back there? It wasn't your mistake." Claire pressed a cap back onto a bottle, placed it neatly in line. Her fingers lingered on the plastic edge. "Maybe someone needs peace more than me right now," she said softly. The silence that followed felt heavier than the air. When she was done, Claire returned the cart to its place, hands smelling faintly of alcohol and lemon wipes. She didn't sign anything, didn't leave a note, only paused a second at the empty medicine log near room 207. Her eyes followed the blank space, just one line, Just one silence. Then she turned and walked the hall slowly, her fingers brushing lightly against the wall, like checking for something that wasn't broken but still fragile. She hadn't spoken much since that morning, just worked and left, but the quiet didn't leave her. 3 nights later, the wind was sharper. It slid through the alley beside the hospital like a warning, rattling the loose gate behind the dumpsters. Claire had just stepped out to stretch when she saw her again. The woman. She was standing by the side entrance, half hidden in shadow, arms crossed tightly over her stomach. Her face was paler this time, pinched with pain, and her coat clung damply to her frame like it hadn't fully dried from the last rain, like someone who hadn't eaten or hadn't been touched in days. She didn't try to come in. She didn't knock. She just stood there, wavering slightly on her feet. The security guard spotted her too. "Hey, ma'am, you can't be here," he said, already moving forward. "This isn't a shelter." Claire stepped in quickly, placing a hand on his arm. "It's all right," she said softly. "She didn't ask for anything. Let me take care of it." The guard hesitated, then nodded, stepping back. Claire opened the door, reached out a steady hand. The woman looked up, dazed, and let herself be led inside without a word. In the nurse's lounge, Claire moved without hurry. She filled the kettle, pressed the switch, pulled down a clean mug from the high shelf, found a sealed packet of plain porridge from the warming drawer near the fridge. She knelt and helped the woman out of her soaked coat, then draped her own over her shoulders without a word. The woman's hands were cold. Claire rubbed them gently, like warming stone. The woman sat in the corner chair, hunched but no longer shivering. Claire handed her the mug of warm water, then the bowl of porridge, the spoon placed quietly on the tray. No questions, no clipboard, no forms, just care. When the woman finally looked up, her eyes shimmered. "Do you know," she whispered, voice shaking, "you just saved me again?" Claire held her gaze for a moment, then smiled faintly, nodded once. She stood, picked up the empty wrappers, and folded the used towel into a neat square. And before the woman could say more, Claire turned and left the room, pulling the door gently shut behind her. Later that night, alone by the east corridor, Claire leaned against the vending machine, the one that still jammed sometimes. She fished 2 coins from her pocket and slipped them in, like always. Didn't press a button. The machine whirred, clunked once, then went quiet. Claire touched her own shoulder, the same spot where her hand had rested on the woman's back days ago. She didn't know why, just that it still felt warm. She didn't look back. Sleep clung to her like a second skin. The night still sat somewhere behind her eyes. The sun hadn't fully risen when Claire stepped out through the side door of the hospital. The air was still blue with early cold, and her breath came out in soft clouds. She adjusted the strap of her canvas bag and rubbed her hands together. Another shift done. She was already picturing her small apartment, the warmth of tea, and her worn-out couch. "Miss Dawson?" The voice was calm, low, just loud enough to make her pause. She turned. A tall man in a black suit stood just outside the side gate, holding open the back door of a black Lincoln. The car's sleek surface reflected the first threads of morning light. Claire hesitated. "I'm sorry." But then she saw the woman. In the back seat, the same woman, but not the same at all. Composed, still, wearing a velvet coat and that same blue stone pin. Her hair was brushed back. Her cheeks carried a quiet flush. The coat she wore fell heavy and dark, but it was the same shape, only more certain. Still pinned with blue. But what caught Claire's eye was the same blue stone pin fastened to the lapel. Still there. The woman gave a small smile. "Please, my mother would like to meet you." Claire blinked. "Your mother?" "She's waiting," the woman said gently. "Just a moment of your time." The man in the suit stepped back slightly, as if giving her space to run if she wanted. Claire's hand gripped the strap of her bag tighter. Something inside her said no, but something else. The quiet thing, The part that had always led her towards silence instead of away nodded. She got in. The drive was quiet. No one spoke. Trees passed, then buildings, then open roads. The car turned onto a clean boulevard lined with iron fences and trimmed lawns. Finally, it slowed in front of a wide, modern building with brushed glass windows and polished stone. Compassion in Care Foundation. Claire stared at the sign as the engine cut off. "This way," the man said, gesturing, but Claire didn't move. Her eyes stayed on the woman across from her, who now looked down, just briefly, at the pin on her coat. Then she looked up again. There was a softness in her eyes, but something else too. Something Claire couldn't name. Not gratitude, not sadness. Something in between. Claire opened the car door, stepped out. Her shoes touched the stone path like it was unfamiliar ground. The wind stirred. Inside the building, a curtain moved, just enough to reveal a silhouette. Still, watching, just slightly. A glimpse of motion. Claire looked up, sensing it. Her fingers found the edge of her jacket, brushing the fabric once. Then she stepped forward. The woman spoke first, voice softer than before. "My name is Emily," she paused. "Emily Caldwell. My mother is Judge Ruth Caldwell." After a bitter divorce, Emily fell into a silence no one could reach. She wandered the city for days, unseen, unheard, until her legs carried her to Westbridge Hospital. Inside, Claire sat across from her, still not understanding why she was there, until Emily began to speak. "It wasn't the blanket," she said. "It was her touch, her look. She didn't ask what I'd done or why I was crying. She just sat beside me. That's why I made it 3 more days." Her mother, Judge Caldwell, had quietly ordered a full review of the night. Security footage, logs, but there was no signature, only whispers from patients about the quiet one who never left a trace. Now the judge looked Claire in the eye. "We're launching a national campaign, Compassion and Care. We want you as its face, not for press, but because you made my daughter believe in humanity again." Claire's throat tightened. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came. She only nodded once, barely. Later, back at her tiny desk, she pinned a small blue rhinestone to her collar. Not for others to notice, not to show, not even to keep, just to carry something that had once passed quietly between 2 people, and stayed. If you believe that a good deed can change something, leave a heart emoji. Maybe someone needs to see their faith in